It's prime time here, and I don't mean on your TV set. I'm talking about here, HGC North America. We have two of NA's best between Octalysis versus HeroesHearth. And after Octalysis' recent results, Dreadnought, this is a matchup you do not want to miss.
It is hard to look at it and be like, you know, this defines absolutely the top of North America, but it puts up a huge argument when looking towards a playoff situation, towards going, who's going to be the one who takes down Octalysis, because they clearly are walking into this part and saying that we are going to be that team that if we are not making the auto qualification for BlizzCon, playoffs is going to be ours easy.
Let's take a look at the standings. Dreadnought, you and I, we've been going back and forth all weekend on can we make that claim if Octalysis wins there. We've been arguing about it all weekend about if they win, are they the best? Well, HeroesHearth, they're playing with a sub this weekend. Yes, but Octalysis has looked so dominant, and that's put them up to that 7-4 mark. Going to Western Clash, they were middle tier. They claim we could have easily been 6-1 going into the Clash. Well, they weren't. And so now that climb to the #1 spot, almost impossible. But they've been climbing the ranks, and today they take on the #1 team in HeroesHearth. Tempo Storm took down HeroesHearth previously 3-2. Then we saw Octalysis. They didn't just beat Tempo Storm, Dreadnought. They 3-0'd Tempo Storm. How many times have we ever said that about a team versus Tempo Storm? And now it's just like, can you do it again? You got the top two teams in one weekend.
That, for me, is the biggest breaking point. You know, out of all the objective measures that we can have to be like, who is the best team? How can we figure this out? Is go, well, what is the team that both of these guys have actually ended up playing against that is of near to equal skill? And, you know, when we saw them up against Tempo Storm, that is we got both versions. We got HeroesHearth in their prime. We got Octalysis, what is in now looks like possibly their prime. And Octalysis came out significantly on top of that series when looking at those results. So it is going to be interesting here on what happens. And for me, the biggest thing is HeroesHearth. The biggest element that they have gotten to put them above the rest of North America is the teamwork and small synergy and some of the intricate understanding of the battleground and macro play. But right now, Octalysis is doing that 100-fold, it feels like, and with their drafting and playstyle. So if HeroesHearth kind of dabbled, it seems like Octalysis is now mastered. And with that mastery, do they have enough to kind of dismantle HeroesHearth approach?
Well, we got to hear from HeroesHearth as well as Octalysis on their thoughts on this series. Big weekend for both teams. Let's hear their thoughts.
HeroesHearth we're definitely less confident against. They're probably just the best team in North America right now. They have the most consistent drafts, and they aren't limited by their hero pools. And just in-game, they're probably the highest skill team overall. If we're playing at 100%, we can just beat them in a standard game, but just getting the early advantage of the draft will help a lot.
I believe that Octalysis is going to come out strong. I respect them right now as, you know, one of the stronger North American teams. I think they get a lot of, you know, their wins in draft, but beyond that, they're clean in their rotations. That plus the understanding of the meta leads to them having a decent amount of success. But I think if we, you know, do our prep work and are prepared for whatever stuff that they throw at us, I think that we'll be able to take this series and maybe a 3-1 or 3-2.
As I already mentioned, if you missed the announcement earlier this weekend, Arthlon retired this past week. We have a substitute, Talking Trees. He was a sub during week #1 of Phase 2. He's here again this weekend. That's just a sub for now. But on the other side, Octalysis, the team that has been the juggernaut since they've come back from the Western Clash, Dreadnought. They are not just winning, they are coming out and dominating people. And they are not just dominating people, they are doing it in a way that we have never really seen. We've seen teams just diversify, play around, have unique strategies, maybe like ADRD teams. Tempo Storm earlier this year, the Death Ball compositions. But it never had the feeling of what we're seeing now from this team of Octalysis. And we kept questioning, can this stand up to the upper tier, that top tier? It worked against Tempo Storm. We're going to see if they can do it today versus HeroesHearth. It is a big question for all teams on how this matchup plays out.
Yeah, and you know, the flip side to maybe my argument I made before, where it's like what HeroesHearth used to dabble in, it feels like Octalysis is kind of mastered. I also wonder, is there that element that HeroesHearth, by just having a small understanding, allows them to be able to make that kind of look that much more silly in a different manner? You know, because this is so rare, this approach to the game that we get from Octalysis, same when it comes to the analysis and knowing the outcome that has, because in the long run, we know sample size-wise, typically that this playstyle will kind of eventually pull out, and it's hard to be able to maintain that diversity for long periods of time, but it should be looking amazing right now, and the results very much have kind of backed up that statement to be true.
Let's take a look at the battleground. HeroesHearth will be taking us to Tomb of the Spider Queen. Octalysis sticking to their ban of Sky Temple. Braxis being taken out by HeroesHearth. And you mentioned that a lot of these unique styles have an expiration date. And that was the question that I asked them on Friday after their victory over Tempo, is that we've seen teams in the past, they go into these unique strategies, but then eventually teams start to figure them out. The one thing that we're seeing that's slightly different for this Octalysis roster, and what we've heard from them, is that even if you take away one element, we have a way to adapt and reestablish something. You can never take away a key component of one thing because they're able to adapt. We've seen 4 meta heroes, 1 off hero. We've seen Diva tank, we've seen Thrall tank, we've seen Uther tank. They have an answer in so many ways that it is a unique approach. Most of these have an expiration date, but they seem to be extending that. Hopefully it's enough for them to make a run to BlizzCon.
But one advantage that teams like HeroesHearth have on their side here, Jay-How, is the fact that they're one of the few that is comfortable with that solo support Abathur, removing some of those specific key elements of the composition that maybe Octalysis will feel comfortable in, that they don't have to perma-ban them out, that they can take them for themselves and be comfortable playing around that. I do wonder if maybe there's going to be at some point in this series a setup around that Abathur where they bait somebody into picking it in situations where they have maybe a huge counter later, but it is different. HeroesHearth Esports against Octalysis, I feel like, than even that of Tempo Storm. As these bans coming through, got Diablo and Johanna. Large focus onto the Warrior choke here as HeroesHearth rid of the Medivh. Got to be asking, is it going to be a first pick Murden now with that and with those bans coming through?
A lot to consider. Don't forget, speaking of BlizzCon, opening week, tickets are available this year. They weren't last year. This year they are. So even if you're in the neighborhood, you can't make it to BlizzCon, that is separate. You can find your tickets on that link below if you are interested in going. Back to the draft here, Dreadnought. Diablo, Johanna, not our normal level 1 bans. We see Yrel also, but this is a map where Octalysis has comfortably run Diva multiple times.
Yeah, and Octalysis has been more comfortable without the Warriors, so I can't help but feel like I wouldn't be surprised if we get the first pick Murden, but I also wouldn't be surprised if we don't, just because, again, their lack of priority. Abathur has been let through, and no, Tomb is not a map that we normally consider it. I think in this matchup, almost every battleground, Abathur is going to be a talking point. Octalysis stick with the Maiev there here, looking for that kill potential within their 4.
They have. They ran it on here. They've used it. They've found ways to manipulate it, even the level 7 going into the damage, or excuse me, the slow, to make sure to control the rotations on this. Maiev going to be the pickup here for Octalysis. HeroesHearth, if they are willing to commit to it, they would not shy away from picking it in their first 2 picks. So that is definitely something to consider. Instead we get Deckard and Junkrat. Making sure Junkrat has that long-range poke capability and dares Maiev to get anywhere close, because that's very deep.
And so one thing we were talking about a little bit on the ride over that I thought was going to be a major problem in this series specifically that I've yet to dabble in is off-lane clear. I think is going to be very, very important. HeroesHearth Esports, we saw on Friday that their mid-game into late-game macro pressure drastically kind of fell off. And heroes like Junkrat, I think, are going to be able to make up for that. But also, Octalysis thrives whenever they have that wave clear advantage over their opponent. They're equally as good of kind of manipulating the battleground into their favor. So having things like the Junkrat, I think other heroes like Johanna are going to be very important, where you can get that off-lane pressure in niche roles beyond just the assassin.
One thing that's curious here is if HeroesHearth lets Diva through, it does seem likely that it could be picked up. There's several options that we could still get from Octalysis, Uther being one of those. We've seen the pairing before. HeroesHearth knows some things about this from scrims. So taking away the tank Uther potential, Junkrat does, the mech counts as a heroic target.
Yeah.
It can still be succumbed to crowd control. A concussion mine can send that the other direction. So Junkrat is a counter towards that style of play.
It's a good point that you bring up here as we get that 3rd ban. It's going to be Genji taken away from HeroesHearth Esports. See what they're going to make happen here. What they want to commit to when it comes to the off lane with Yrel taken away. Same with the Blaze. Leo is one of the first things that kind of stands out here, but might not want to commit to it at this point in time within the composition. Also, if you go Junkrat, Deckard, and Leo in the same comp, typically you have a very slow approach to a team fight, which can be a big setback to the all-in of that Warden's Cage available. Going to go with the Dahaka instead and look for that Nubarak here for their front line.
Well, that does bring up questions for Whitemane builds. We've seen a lot of clemency lately, that single target healing with your Inquisition towards an ally. But Nubarak has the Impale. You can toss out there, disrupt that. That's a 3-second channel for Whitemane. You get that disruption. You also have the Burrow charge in potentially. So there are some adaptations that could come in. Octalysis, if Uther was the plan, what's the answer? The Diva pickup is here, but Sergeant Hammer. Junkrat has been used as a counter. Li Ming could still be viable here for Heroes Hearth.
Or the Nazebo. I like the
Ooh.
Nazebo a lot more than the Li Ming that we have seen here in North America. With how much we've gotten the Seeker as the response as of late for the Sergeant Hammer, I think the Nazebo, not only to this battleground and things, is far better than the Li Ming, but it has more reliability with the overall approach to the team fights. One problem we do have, though, is both Nazebo and the Junkrat have the who's going to execute problem. They both do make up for it, though. They both have heroics that are really good at getting that execution. It's just if you see both heroics end up using, you know probably nothing's going to die in that team fight. They need to die either with a Riptire or with the Ravenous Spirit, or even Garg if we end up getting it.
One thing that's really fun about that, when you bring that up, one of those heroics, actually both of the heroics that you're talking about are Riptire and
I was going Ravenous.
Spirit. What does Diva do? Those are channeled abilities.
Yeah.
If
Just
you're
thrust
Diva, you thrust her in. There's possibilities for counter. You could disrupt both heroics at the same time.
And one thing you haven't even brought up that you can also do, what if you just don't interrupt it, defense matrix on top of it, and he doesn't move? It just the whole time you're like, I don't care about your Ravenous Spirit value because you are doing no damage here.
Well, let's find out how it plays out. This is exciting for everybody to watch. It's going to be Heroes Hearth on the left in blue. BBJ, he'll be on the Deckard. Ishbu on a Nubarak. McIntyre in the off lane on Dahaka. Talking Trees the sub will be on that Nazebo. And Crowan on the Junkrat. Hero he hasn't found himself on lately. With this sub, finds himself filling the role.
And for Octalysis here, they are going to be in the red with Justing on his legendary Diva. Goku is going to be playing our Blaze. Draded, going to be on the Maiev this game. Next up is Prismaticism on Sergeant Hammer. And last, supporting the squad is Whitemane, played by Buds.
If you're in a Nazebo and there's a Diva on the other side, stacking spiders is incredibly easy. When Diva is in mech form, Goku, he is body blocked like crazy here. The concussion mine for the knockback. First blood right out of the gate, 27 seconds in. And we hit him with the B-step. And Crowan makes sure and gets the spray just to let you know even further.
HeroesHearth Esports throwing a little banter here after throwing out some of that aggression over the first clash of the wave. See if it continues here as the post up there for Octalysis, getting Sergeant Hammer towards the bottom half. That is a laning mismatch in favor of Sergeant Hammer, except with the Junkrat waiting on the side. If he sieges up, that's a concussion mine play. Very easily so, which we already see available. They get it into a drag. They're about to get the pick.
That's
and
it.
they get it. That was clean by HeroesHearth Esports. Again, baiting and setting up that off-lane pressure.
2 early kills here. There's questions I've seen out there in the social media is what happens when Octalysis, when they lose, when things don't go their way. Do they adapt? Do they change? Do they succumb to the pressure that could be put out? And Heroes Hearth is one of the best at putting that pressure on. They've done that here in the first minute or so. Early kills don't always net a lot of experience, but it disrupts the pacing. It denies the rotations that you thought you could have and potentially denies gems that you can have.
And, you know, I'm not going to take away from what HeroesHearth has been able to force into the early game here, but, you know, if I'm Octalysis with this composition, I would be a little bit concerned at the fact that I have a double mage, a Junkrat, and a Nazebo, and I'm suffering in the early game to the kill potential, not the wave clear potential, and kind of setting up through rotations here. So HeroesHearth Esports has been able to make a lot happen, and I think it's only going to further that pressure, if there is any here, for Octalysis. So we see them sieging up here on the bottom lane. McIntyre able to make it back there onto the Haka. Prismat steps off to the side. Concussion Mine not going to be able to get a play unless McIntyre wants to go for maybe a brush stock.
I think that was trying to see if they could bait out maybe one of those cooldowns as the oil disrupts the back there of McIntyre. See if he manages to brush stalker in. That's why you see the concussion, the spider mines, I should say, in that bush there, and that's exactly where Dahaka's coming.
So much focus onto this laning mismatch here on the bottom lane. I absolutely love this from Octalysis. This off-lane pressure coming in is something that we don't see too often here in North America, but considering the drafts, I feel like it does make a lot of sense. Goals here for HeroesHearth is going to be stalling out that game and looking to get that late game Nazebo stacks. As long as they don't let Octalysis get too much early game pressure out of this dominant tri lane in the Maiev D.Va cycle, they're going to be all right.
Dreadnought so many times. Everybody wants that Nazebo to be that solo laner, but with Big Voodoo and the importance on your quest if and when you do make it to 20, but overall in general, the bonuses, having Nazebo double lane soak to stack that early is far more advantageous in the long run. So much so that we already have 62 stacks 3.5 minutes in for Nazebo.
This value here, as that is going to be a big problem as this game kind of moves on if those stacks continue at this rate. Zombie Wall going to be joining in here with Talking Trees and Friends as that scroll of ceiling actually dodged. That would have hit for sure. Could have seen that setup play there from the Ginger Dread.
Nazebo has a really weird interaction with the Zombie Wall and the way it works.
Yeah.
It can be knocked back, but it still counts as a barrier. Sergeant Hammer has a knockback, D.Va potentially. It's a weird interaction that I'm curious how it will play out, because if the Zombie Wall comes in there, how does the lockdown happen as the Impale comes out? So it is something that seeing how teams can maybe play around that or use it to their advantage on the side of HeroesHearth.
Yeah, it will be cool to be able to see that. It's one of my, since Nazebo got into the meta, if you will, I don't know if it's fair to say he's totally within the meta, but kind of made his way back. I've been a huge fan of anytime you can make Zombie Wall plays. The self-Zombie Wall, one of my favorite, honestly, interactions in all of Heroes. I don't know why, I just think it's so funny to see him throw the Zombie Wall around him and then just throw out that Ravenous Spirit. 43 gems here turning for HeroesHearth Esports, and 30 for that of Octalysis. Nobody really forcing too heavily. BBJ and Friends here on bottom do have control over this bottom lane for a temporary amount of time. See if they can get those gems turned in. But Octalysis keeping up that lane pressure and swapping out the lane rotations very consistently. This is what when I talk about fluid laning, Octalysis is putting it pretty much on a clinic right now. Never sitting in the same lane for too long and always forcing HeroesHearth to kind of follow them.
What's something we've touched on lately with more Tomb games, we touched on it earlier, is early Webweaver turn-ins don't always net the value that you hope. But if you get through some of the fort walls, and then it allows you to take an early fort, that's when you can establish a very dominant and early lead as Ishbu comes in with the last second stall there. So what Octalysis is accomplishing now could set up a lot. McIntyre, nice sidestep by Buds.
Able to do that. Tether back now. Mac might have to get the burrow. Without a jet propulsion thrown out, that was the biggest thing that he needed to focus on to dodge, so not going to end up using it there. Adjusting now, questioning if he can get the turn in. It's not enough for the Webweaver phase, but very close there.
Sounded violent.
Yeah, my
What
goodness.
was that?
Was that the Zombie Wall getting auto-attacked or the Beetle? But that was bloody murder.
I did a double take there.
Yeah.
I don't normally play with my sound that loud, but that's not a sound that I like loud in my headset.
I don't know. That was
I'm just glad you looked at me when I looked at you, so I didn't think I was crazy there.
I'm going with that was the Zombie Walls getting shot. Man, Gingerbread. Whoever knew that they were so emotional.
Now I know why Lauren is so scared. First Webweaver's turned in here. There was an interesting approach as the burrow charge will just miss. But if you look at your mini-map, Maiev, we saw it just recently, was sitting on this. And will use this as a defense tool towards this middle lane. Unless they feel like it won't be... Okay, I was going to say. The long haul of defending the Webweavers and then using it offensively seems like that'd be a risk right now.
It does. And there they go. Knights picked up. Octalysis trying to rid of top for now. As Blaze doing his best to get the clear on bottom. With Crossfire, will be able to make a pretty easy clear of that bottom web weaver on his own. Top being already dealt with there by Octalysis. See what we see HeroesHearth make happen now. Normally, I feel like HeroesHearth Esports would have made that rotation to mid a little bit faster, considering how little they ended up making happening. I mean, don't get me wrong. We pointed out already, traded with the Night Camp. They did all they could to minimize the loss, but HeroesHearth Esports not being as proactive as maybe we'd expect. And Octalysis, look at that first web weaver phase with a pretty big win. Ishku going to get dragged back. Warden's cage is there. Can he get a burrow charge out? No, he cannot. Octalysis end up getting their first kill of this game. And now have an opportunity for a web weaver phase.
As much as I mentioned concussion mines, sending that mech flying, Lornado also works there. But the zoning was real, and that pilot damage that came out once that mech explosion went. Easy kill there onto the Anubarak. That early damage that we've seen from Octalysis, Dreadnought, it's time to see how much Octalysis can do with that. They still have the Sergeant Hammer to make things happen. Here comes the Brush Stalker out on the backside. The slow, the drag, that's going to be there. Trying to disrupt. The isolation's on.
Ravenous Spirit coming through with the Lornado. Budge trying to heal up with the Riptire. Is getting the job done. Ends up getting the pick there. Cocoon reveal on to Justin. Focus now on to McIntyre. Is he getting the passive heal? There's the burrow down. Goku gets dragged back, concussion mine in, that's 35 gems, but he doesn't care, he drops a bunker, Drayden gets the tether, and that is another kill. Jet propulsion out by Goku on to McIntyre, and Octalysis take the 1-to-1 trade, while web weavers are sieging in all lanes. Jay, how they are getting so much value.
Yeah, HeroesHearth bit off more than they could chew there, is with those web weavers pushing down, confirming structures. When the trade on kills came out, now you look up at the experience. That's where the value comes in. Forced to respond to those other lanes, allowing Prismat to siege up here on Sergeant Hammer. This should confirm a second for it, as the Lornado will buy a few seconds worth of time. But Octalysis starting to distance themselves. Nothing significant yet, though, Dreadnought, but definitely felt.
I think the biggest concern there is the fact that that was a laning situation where, hold on, we'll see if Octalysis want to aggress any farther, where Octalysis didn't use Justin's Mecha Diva Explosion for the actual web weaver phase itself. Normally when we see them end up going with that, it's use the Mecha Explosion to secure a turn-in or to secure value out of the web weaver phase. So to get that much value and then already have Justin have another Mecha Explosion back up for the next web weaver phase with the 13 talent tier, things are going near flawlessly here for Octalysis in this early game outside of those first couple of kills that HeroesHearth got against them.
There goes the mech explosion into the Warden's cage. BBJ, he's stuck all alone there. Talking trees, he's going to be the second to fall. There's the combo, and that is it. Octalysis, they were looking for it. They found it. HeroesHearth trying to deny that turn-in right before 13. And a wombo combo of epic proportions there for Octalysis netted them not just the time they need to turn in, but they're looking at boss.
Yeah, the boss behind this, they will be able to round the 15 as the keep front wall ends up going down. That puts them in a position to really likely be able to get a minimum of one keep, I feel like, out of this. If the 16 talent tier is there fast enough, probably even more than that. But as we're saying, Justin, once he gets the Diva Mecha Explosion, they use it to force turn-ins, which is exactly what happens. No hesitation here as you see the Mecha Explosion go through. Crowd control with the Warden's cage. Not much else to say after that. There is no way to survive that if you are a Deckard Cain.
The gem loss was also catastrophic for HeroesHearth as many went down. They have enough for a turn-in. The majority of them lying in the hands of Dahaka. Lornado will buy space. Self-cleanse used by Prismat. This is likely an early keep. Justin already with the mech out. See if he has the dash in, but the Ravenous Spirit comes through with the Riptire, not getting the interrupt, and now Justin trying to keep Buds alive on the backside. The Web Weaver and the boss still on that keep. See if maybe HeroesHearth can hold.
And notice how HeroesHearth Esports actually ended up getting rid of the middle web weaver fast enough. They're in prime position to be able to deal with this now that they were able to dive pass on top and get those kills. Trying to buy still a little bit more time is going to be Goku, who will secure that top fourth there. Or excuse me, that top keep. Octalysis maybe bite off more than they can chew, but they still have a significant lead and control here on Tomb of the Spider Queen.
Justin's a Diva Pro, a Diva God at this point. Not using that mech in versus two of those channeled abilities. I can understand the concept of getting back there and trying to protect, but I wonder And I'd have to take a look at it again if maybe he had an opportunity to get in there. They were very far back. The Riptire, you can be way, way far back.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say that I was surprised at how late Buds was willing to pop Aegis. I think the whole team just underestimated a lot there. Hold on, talking about underestimation. Whitemane going to come out. McIntyre, does he go for the drag afterwards? The answer is going to be yes, but the thruster's there. We see the white Aegis with the 13 root drop down. McIntyre is going to get tethered, use the burrow, but look at that. Prismat pressured by Ishbu. Use the self-cleanse and the thrusters. He's able to make it out.
Oh, man. And the Web Weavers have already spawned, Dread. Catapult's dealing with the top lane already. The Night Camp mid. So Octalysis is in full assault here.
But he lands the drag. Scroll of Ceiling's going to stop the reveal. Bunker is there for the Ravenous Spear and the Riptire. Justing in that mecha will be just fine as he gets a heal out from Whitemane. Webweaver still pushing away, but top not going to have much value as it's too far back. Middle will be dealt with rather easily, and bottom doesn't exist anymore.
And that was so many gems. We mentioned in that big combo around that middle turn-in, around the 13 mark for HeroesHearth, they lost a significant number of gems. Now they're sitting just around 35 when they come around after this phase. That's not enough for another turn. In Octalysis, they have the full level lead still. They're still sitting on enough gems around the same mark, slightly more. This Webweaver momentarily alive. See if Justin and team try and pull the trigger on another combo.
They go out with the combo, but there goes the Cocoon onto the Maiev afterwards. They spend that time to make sure they get the immediate reveal. Let Graded join the rest of the ranks of Octalysis. But I do want to see in these next fights if Buds can find a way to be able to, if they don't use that Diva interrupt like you were talking about with Justing, to make sure that they get that Scarlet Aegis out before. Because I still feel like on that last initiation, even though the cleanse may not have been available, Whitemane could have kept the kill target alive a little bit longer and a little bit more, difficult here for HeroesHearth.
Now just enough gems for Octalysis. See if they can get another turn in. Getting an early keep down in this for the anti-push against that top Webweaver by so much time. All forts still standing on the side of Octalysis.
Justin got back into the mecha there after the pressure applied by Ishbu down below. Still HeroesHearth Esports 11 gems away from even being able to threaten this turn-in. So it's all about denying. Drady goes in. Ishbu with that burrow charge out. Lornado already dropped. That's a big cooldown there. We'll see if HeroesHearth hope that they have that over the next 35 seconds as another turn-in attempt. Justing is the man with enough gems to get the solo turn-in. Can he zone off here?
Here we go, traded in again. That forces the burrow charge out. Dahaka also coming in to try and join this.
Zombie
Here
wall.
comes the Riptire.
But the bunker.
The bunker's there, but Prismat, he's isolated. Whitemane, no healing available, so the Cocoon is used. We're going to see the rest of Octalysis see if they can fight through here. As Prismat down, Draded trying to survive. There comes the heals from Whitemane, trying to keep everybody alive. Draded getting resets on the fan, but here comes the drag, the cleanse. Is it enough as the jet propulsion lands there?
Resets out from Draded were ridiculous. The healing now out from Buzz. Justin is going to go into human form, drops a big shot there. A while till he's going to find another mech, but the turnaround between Buds there on the Whitemane and the damage output of Draded on Maiev was the only reason that did not spell the beginning of the end for Octalysis. They turn it around, drop the Webweavers in, and now we'll see what they can make happen, knowing that this night camp has been started. HeroesHearth do get the pickup and make the retreat out.
The catapults are already on the top. Prismat now back on the battleground. Does have the jet, the thrusters to get out, and then the thrusters to get further. See if that's enough to make up the distance to get that siege.
We'll find out here. Is Octalysis clumping through mid? They need Maiev. Draded just spawned from the Hall of Storms. He's not going to be able to join in reasonably until over bottom lane. So we'll see if HeroesHearth can force that fight, knowing that Diva is on bottom, which they might look to do. Ishbu already revealed, and then after this mid Webweaver dies, the transfer towards the bottom lane, as the 20 spike will just be out of reach depending on how much they get after that keep turret. Unstoppable, actually already forced there. Cleanse force and a bunker use. Big cooldowns here by Octalysis.
Getting another keep here at the tail end of this would be a major advantage for Octalysis. Give them the catapult control, but more importantly 20, which is nearing, and see if they use that napalm strike upgrade for the extra range to poke this down. Without 20, Octalysis forced to walk away for now.
No opportunity for HeroesHearth here to force anything without that 20 talent here, except maybe sneak a turn in here. Boss is going to be started by Drayden. HeroesHearth in the downtime likely would try and turn in a Web Weaver phase at some point. Looks like Anubrak's going to be the one who starts that. That's Ishbu. Boss still being focused down. No 20 still here for HeroesHearth Esports.
Tahaka's coming in. Prismat's going to be right on top of him. Self-cleanse is going to be there. McIntyre trying to get on there. There's going to be the root coming out. Isolation used. Riptire is out. No Diva available yet. Bunker used directly on top of the boss. This is chaos everywhere as Drayden trying to survive, and now the attention is on the boss.
They have no mech explosion. They have no mech explosion yet, so they don't have the opportunity. Concussion Mine knocks it off. Jet Propulsion comes in, locks down 3. Diva mech explosion's available now. Justin's gonna go in. He sets it down.
Goodness.
Everybody's stuck in a corner. Drayden is there. The explosion gets pulled all the way back. HeroesHearth lose 3 members. Auto attacks out from Prismat, locks down the 4th. And with that, Octalysis look to take game number 1 over HeroesHearth Esports.
Oh my goodness. The Octalysis clutched that out, getting back on there. What an ending here for Octalysis versus HeroesHearth in game number 1. Prismat also went the Ultra Capacitors at 20. Those auto attacks were shelling out against that, confirming that last kill, which was basically an afterthought. As Octalysis, they continue to do it their way, come out here, a win in game number 1 in explosive fashion.
Explosive fashion is probably the best way to summarize that ending there. Very well done by Octalysis, and I'm not gonna lie, I was surprised when they had the 20 if they were going to be able to commit to that, because there was that kind of situation where that might have been one of the only ways for HeroesHearth to be able to come back. But they have the confidence with the 20 spike execute there, with Drayden being able to draw a lot of resources over that. Also, I mean, there was a huge value. That I've never seen a tornado on a boss dislike a hero more than McIntyre. Seriously, I don't. If you go back and watch that, 15 seconds of just being disabled.
Don't worry.
Okay.
Don't worry. We actually have that replay. I got goosebumps watching. When I saw the mech explosion come back in, I was just like, oh my goodness, this is going to happen.
Yeah, the biggest problem is you see Justin release. Normally they were like, okay, well the cocoon, if that hadn't happened, Justin has the explosion right now, and that is a problem for HeroesHearth Esports. Then he gets knocked out, and that takes a lot of time for him to make the transfer back. Huge jet propulsion there from Goku, sets it up, and then that is now, at this point, just keep him busy. Drayden just drops a tether and goes, as long as I keep him here. Mac did his best to drag it all back, but too little, too late.
Holy cow. That's one of those ones I don't want to have words. I just want to watch. I mean, I'm watching that unfold. The mech explosion took so long to come online there. White main healing hit that lash directly in the middle. You could see McIntyre hit the white main with the drag trying. So there's an interesting interaction. So if you're on that, it's almost like on Braxis. If you have a control point, you want to hit that drag and hit at the very end of that so that you have them CC'd beyond that. Got it pulled on there. I think Goku would have made it on there anyway. So if you're looking at that and wondering, like, why did he pull him back on? He was trying. It's better for zoning. Just didn't execute it as well. I think Goku would have got on there anyways. But when all that cycled out, Drayden with 10% health somehow manages to survive in that. But when that explosion, that mech comes in and I see it fully charged, I mean, my eyes are big enough, but they turned like saucers there. That was wild to watch there.
I mean, if you want to talk about anybody's eyes getting big in that moment, I guarantee there were Justin's going, baby, this is a mecha moment if I've ever seen one. His only problem was that he didn't have enough time to make sure he could perfectly place the distance on that thing.
It was wild.
I mean, he had the back wall to throw it against, and, you know, McIntyre was doing his best afterwards to kind of deal with it. But, yeah, it was just an optimal situation, to say the least.
Speaking of optimal, we welcome in you StarCraft viewers. If you stick around, you're enjoying one of the best series that we will have here at HGC North America. Our #1 team, HeroesHearth, versus one of the best teams on the rise in Octalysis since the Clash. They took down the #2 team on Friday, having their shot at the #1 team today. So we welcome you guys in to this episode here that we have on Sunday. This is just it's a story to behold. It's a story being told right now, and Octalysis seems to have the pen in their hand, and they continue to put ink on that paper. They are no longer just saying it. They are putting it down, and right now it's working out well for them these last few weeks.
Yeah, when words are becoming action for feels like the first time in a long while for Octalysis. And I think it even gets a little bit more drastic when considering that was on a battleground that, yes, both teams are comfortable on, but HeroesHearth Esports, again, looking at the things that separated them from the rest of North America during their rise to the top, it was the small macro battlegrounds, Tomb and Dragonshire. They just got their own kind of strategies brought to them on Tomb of the Spider Queen. We'll see, if the Dragonshire is going to be a problem later on, but